Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Fabio Nascimbeni from UNIR speaking, and welcome to this fourth webinar of the OpenMed course. OpenMed is a project supported by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Commission, and this webinar is organized as a further learning activity within Module 4, which deals with adaptation and contextualization of open educational resources. And I also have to thank the UNIR UNESCO chair on e-learning and OER for the support for this webinar. And now that I thanked everybody, I will have to thank the most important person in the webinar, Shireen Yacoub from EDRAC. As most of you will know, EDRAC is a rather unique example of a MOOC platform in Arabic. Shireen will introduce it in details in a few moments. And we are glad to have her here with us because first of all, because she's a speaker from the Mediterranean region, which is important. We had up to now speakers from, let's say, the Northern Hemisphere, so it's important to have you here. And second, because when we talk about contextualization and the importance of having open content and open education in the Arabic language, EDRAC is probably the best example that we can think of for this. Just a couple of communications for the participants. If you have questions or comments, please use the chat. And if you have not done so already, please let us know through the chat from which institution and which country you're coming from, so we know who is in the virtual room. And Shireen will speak for some half an hour or so, even a bit less, up to you, Shireen, and then we will at the end have some time for discussion, questions, and debate in line with the participants' interest. I think that's all from my side. So thank you again to all the participants and to Shireen for your presence. And Shireen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fabio. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy and excited to be with you. This is a great course that we've been following since its launch. I hope that you're finding it useful as well. I'd like to start with a quick overview of what we do at DROC and then some insights on our experience regarding the localization of content, and then try to keep as much time as we can for questions so that it's more interactive and relevant to what you would like to know. So let me start with our story. We have been launched by idrak.org has been launched by Her Majesty Queen Rania through the Queen Rania Foundation for Education and Development in 2014 as the first nonprofit massive open online course platform or MOOC platform. We offer free high quality online courses to learners across the MENA region in Arabic. So basically our mission is to revolutionize access and delivery of education through this region and empower learners with online and blended learning opportunities. Since our launch, we have been able to reach 1.5 million learners. They come from across the globe, but let me give you maybe a quick insight on the top countries using the platform. They're Egypt, Algeria, Morocco, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. And more than 160,000 certificate of completion have been issued on our platform. We've managed to offer more than 75 free online courses in different areas. So we've covered topics related to STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, business and entrepreneurship, employability skills such as CV writing, interviewing skills, and so on, aimed at bridging the skills gap in the region. Teaching and learning, and then finally education for citizenship. At the same time, we try to be demand driven, so we always get requests and we survey our learners to find out what is it that they would like to learn the most. As you can see, we have a network of fans on social media of around 2 million. We will actually hit that today, probably. Just to give you an idea about the demographics of our learners, 55% of them have completed a bachelor's degree. The most common age group on the platform is 19 to 26, and we're very proud that 45% of our learners are females. So let me tell you how it all started in terms of localization. We've identified the open edX technology that was developed by the MIT Harvard Consortium edX as an open source technology to be very fit to the plans we've had. So we've Arabized the technology and introduced right to left. We brought it to the region and started building on it. Some of the features that we have in terms of the learning experience, and I think this might be of interest to many of you following the course structure that I have seen, is that we have the ability to modularize content. So we do recommend that content is always modular. From our experience, we found that learners are more interested in shorter courses, so 4 weeks long courses, and then we have a diverse problem, let's say types library that you can choose from for assessments, whether we're talking about formative or summative assessments. And obviously we do have rich data analytics that can support and inform the decisions instructors or learning design experts need to enhance the learning experiences they offer, and also predict what kind of learners are struggling, how we can then identify the interventions to push forward in order to keep them engaged and help them complete their courses. As I mentioned, we do offer a certification system, so you're able to issue a certificate of completion towards the end of your experience should you manage to get the passing grade. And we normally hear the, let's say, criticism from many universities that there is a concern regarding engagement and interactivity. So our discussion forums allow participants or learners to engage in conversations, whether to engage in peer learning or with their course teams that are usually made of the instructors and also the teaching assistants. So we rely a lot on teaching assistants to facilitate and manage the discussions on the forum, so it's more engaging. So far, we've offered mainly two types of courses, MOOCs that are, as I mentioned, massive open online courses. These are obviously courses that are available for everyone. Anybody can pretty much sign up for them. And the accredited courses that are mentioned on the other part of the slide are courses that we've collaborated with different Jordanian universities on. They are delivered either fully online or as part of a blended learning experience. We collaborate with the universities themselves to create the content, so we only support with learning design expertise and media production. And this is probably an opportunity that I'd like to discuss further towards the end, because we're always looking for partners and universities who are willing to come on board and share content with us, whether they're interested in the MOOC model or the accredited courses that are only available for their students. The default license we have in terms of content licensing is the Creative Commons license. As you can see, I have shared here the exact type where we allow our content to be shared for non-commercial purposes as long as attribution is given to the content creators. And we are very proud of the efforts made by our team and also the partners on pushing forth more open content in Arabic online. Recently, we have received a grant from google.org to start that will allow us to start expanding into the K-12 space, and we're very excited that we will be launching open educational resources covering the entire math curricula for grades 1 through 12 corresponding to the national curricula in countries across the region, with a main focus on Jordan, Egypt, and Syria in the initial phase. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can further encourage and get more people excited on joining efforts with us on this front. For the K-12 offerings we have, they will not only be of use for learners, but also for teachers or education enablers in the case of refugees, for instance, and also parents who are interested in engaging their children's learning experience. Our vision is to go beyond just math, which we're rolling out in January, to start in January to next year, to cover other topics such as the sciences, as you can see here. I don't know if you can see the arrow. Also the languages, English and Arabic, and coding. This is an ambitious vision that we have for 2020. But for now, I'd like to announce that the math OERs will be launched over 3 phases starting January 2018. Fabio, if you can just pull the slides from the PDF, please. All right, so I've thank you very much. So I've received a few questions around content localization, and I'd like to share with you our experience on that front. When we first started Idrak, we started with a licensing model through which we license courses from institutions such as, or universities such as Harvard and MIT. We started launching these courses on the platform, and from our experience, it has shown to be it has proven to be very difficult to localize them, and it's a costly, let's say, endeavor, because at the beginning, or to start with, they are designed for, apologies for that, I think it's popping up. They are designed for the typical Western learner in mind. So they do not take into account cultural considerations, especially when it comes to the examples and case studies that are used in the courses, that are most of the times irrelevant to learners in the Arab world. The translation process itself proved to be very challenging. First, we faced many challenges around finding the right translators who are capable of localizing the content and not providing us with literal translation word by word. This proves to be even more challenging when we talk about STEM topics, because in the Arabic language there are a few gaps that are yet to be covered for creating terms that are really up to date. And the terms are not really popular or commonly used in the region. The other aspect was the process itself. So in terms of content, translation or collaboration tools, how do you manage the review process? If you log the entire content online, then how does it get translated and reviewed? Do you keep track of versions of the content? How do you make sure that the changes you are making to a single term are universal? Or do you have to go back to every single thread and replace that term, for instance? So I'd like to share with you some of the learnings or best practices that we've come up to overcome this aspect of the content localization challenge. We started creating a glossary of terms right on the onset. So we start with scoping the entire course. For example, let's refer to it as a course for now. We scope the entire course. We go through every single component to ensure that every single component is properly translated and there is consistency in the terms used throughout the course. Once we've identified the glossary of terms, we meet with the translators and also subject matter experts to ensure that they're not being literally translated. Once we have the glossary of terms, we design or we work on a timeline where we engineer a few checkpoints to make sure that mistakes or oversights are caught early on. Then we move to a review process where we ask subject matter experts to review the translated content done by linguistics. And finally, we try to keep everything recorded so that it's easier to track or go back to earlier versions of the content. The third aspect is around contextualization. And as I mentioned, a lot of the case studies or examples, sometimes even the visual media used in the course, are not culturally appropriate or relevant. So, for example, if we start talking about entrepreneurship and how to set up a startup in the US, probably the laws or the entities that entrepreneurs can go to is not really very helpful for learners from the MENA region. Also, in terms of the culture, in fact, we're talking about sometimes images, setups of examples where they could be considered offensive to certain learners. They could be not culturally appropriate to others. So you have to go really through every single component of the course and make sure that you have a proper plan for replacing the content. And then this raises an issue around licensing. If you're not working with open content that you can reuse and remix, then you will have to go through the process of obtaining approvals to replace this content, which makes the process even more lengthier and challenging. And finally, with the formatting and compatibility, especially when we were working on math courses, with the equations, we faced significant challenges that required us to actually be creative, and that excited us a lot because we had to think of new ways of delivering the content, and we ended up developing a tool that was later on adopted by the Open EdX Consortium to make sure that RTL stays persistent and equations are properly displayed as part of the question without interfering with learners' ability to digest the question. And this corresponds obviously to the cognitive load theory, where you are, always cognizant of how much load you're putting on learners to process the question they're saying. It should be seamless. In terms of quality assurance, so let's say we've started working on a course. How do we make sure that it's of high quality? And also, if a partner is working on a course with us, how do we measure the quality of such course and ensure that it's at the standards that we're looking for? First thing we look at is the structure and sequence. So, and this starts with how you actually design the course. We have a template for a course outline that allows our partners to think about how they want to structure and design their course. How do they want to chunk the components of it? What flow will they follow? For each segment, for example, how many questions do they need to cover, and so on and so forth. And then we look into the learning design and pedagogy. We always stress that we need our courses to be pedagogically driven, and we need to see this seamlessly and consistently present throughout the course content. In terms of learning design, we consider different aspects of engagement, modularization, how long is each segment, how are we relating content to each other. So it pretty much goes hand in hand with the structure and sequence. And then we look at the assessments. So our platform is not pretty much a YouTube channel. It has to be a fully fledged learning experience where we have comprehension checks, where we're vet for understanding, and also provide hints for those who are not able to answer questions properly. It's about getting people to master the content. So we always provide formative and summative assessments. And then the quality of media use. So the videos must be in high definition, the infographics must be done properly, following different principles of the cognitive load theory. And I'll share a link now to useful resources that you can check. Signaling, chunking, social learning, all of these aspects also go into consideration. And obviously, all of this needs to be delivered by a high caliber course team. So the subject matter expert or the instructor leading the course need to prove, a certain level of caliber and qualification. Usually we go with PhD holders, and sometimes subject matter experts who have extended experience in a certain field. And we also recommend that the course instructor hires a minimum of 2 teaching assistants that will help with the research, content creation, authoring the course on the platform, and then when the course goes live, they help with managing the discussion forums, making sure that they respond to questions. Sometimes they even decide that they need to create scaffolding content or additional content that is in high demand in the course experience. And obviously throughout the course there needs to be a very clear communication plan that students can follow. So what is it that they need to do? What are the timelines, the deadlines? What are they expected to contribute to the course? When do they need to engage in forums? And that's all to make sure that they are guided throughout the experience and supported so that we keep them engaged. Obviously, all of the above need to be relevant and appropriate for the learners and also the context. So now I'd like to open it up for questions to make sure that I'm able to answer as many as we can with the time we have left.
Sorry, my microphone was off. So I was saying thank you very much.
Yeah.
Virtual clap for you, and congratulations for the presentation, and especially for the work of EDRAC. I didn't know you are moving into school education, which is also a very important move, not tackled by our project, let's say, but it's an important development, I think. So we have a number of questions, especially requests for clarifications. I will start from the simple ones. The EDRAC MOOCs are available, of course, for free across borders to everybody wanting to access them, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and in terms, yeah,
all you need,
sorry. No,
yeah,
go on.
You just need to create an account and you can enroll in any course that you wish to
All
take.
right. And in terms of accreditation, you were mentioning some figures in terms of related to accreditation. So how does that work in practice? If a student, let's say a learner is taking a MOOC and wants to be accredited, how does it work? All of them are available for accreditation. Is there a cost? How does it work?
All right, so MOOCs are not accredited. The accredited ones are the courses that I've mentioned that we offer in collaboration with the universities. Let me start with a bigger picture here. Online accreditation in the Arab world is obviously a big challenge. Only recently, specifically 2 years ago, did Jordan pass a law enabling higher education institutions to accredit up to 25% of the courses to be delivered online. So we work with universities within this margin to offer courses that are either delivered as fully online and account for 25% of the entire course experience. That's usually or typically a 3-hour accredited course, or they could be part of a blended learning experience where the online component is hosted on a dock, but then there's a flipped classroom experience. Instructors meet with students once a week instead of 3. But for these courses specifically, they need to be delivered in collaboration with the universities that can accredit them, and they're open only to students enrolled in these universities.
Okay. And when you talk about universities, you talk about Jordanian universities, or you have partners also in other countries?
Yeah, so obviously we'd love to have more partners from the region, but for the piloting phase, we've managed to work with Jordanian universities who were able to offer accredited online courses given this amended law. We are now in talks with universities in Egypt, but there's also a concern around the accreditation of online education, and that's at the policy level. And I'm very excited that your project does some advocacy around that, because we do need to make the case for online education and to push governments to actually accredit online education. It can solve so many challenges that we face with the brick and mortar
Absolutely.
model.
So let's say from a point of view of the fruition of the course, I think it is clear. From the point of view, I'm taking a few questions at the same time. If a university, let's say from Egypt, from anywhere, from any Arabic-speaking country, would like to produce a MOOC through EDRAC. So let's say they want to, they have I guess, the minimum components are the professors with the content and the availability to produce it. How would this work in practice?
Okay, so we are very keen on working with universities and university instructors on creating MOOCs, and I'm very happy to explore any opportunities that can come out of this webinar. How it works. Uh, just express your interest and we're ready to take it forward. So basically we collaborate with the instructor and we assign him or her a course manager from our end who can support throughout the learning, design, and content creation process. We do have templates and we do have a very well structured process that we can walk them through it. And we also handle media production. So in terms of filming and post-production, designing the videos, that we take care of everything on that front. And then we also launch marketing campaigns to promote these courses to learners across the Arab world, whether we're talking here about our social media networks or paid marketing campaigns to expand the outreach. So it's also a good opportunity for universities to reach out to more learners in the Arab world and make them more familiar with the offerings of the university and what kind of quality education can students look for in them.
Okay, so do you have a rough understanding or a rough estimation of how much time it would take the preparation phase, let's say, of a standard course in terms of preparation? Yes, exactly. That's the question that I anticipated, Maya. And also, if this professor should come to your headquarters to record the video, ideally, or can it do?
Okay, so we try to. Okay, so we always make sure that the process is efficient, and we're very aware that instructors are very busy and they have a lot on their plates. So we've optimized our process to make sure that content creation or course development takes only 3 to 5 months. This really depends on how ready the content is. So if a professor has content that's ready and available in Arabic, we can start the learning design process and within 1 month move to filming. If more support is needed on the translation end, we're also happy to provide support to a certain extent on that front. But then this takes maybe a little bit more time, so it makes it between 2 to 3 months just to prepare the content. Then we move to filming, which only takes around 4 to 6 days. based on how long the course is. And before this phase, everything can be done remotely, so no need for the instructors to be present in Jordan. For the filming phase, we usually recommend that filming takes place in Jordan, but if for some reason this proves to be challenging, we can consider filming wherever the instructor is. Once the filming is done, we go through the post-production phase, and that's usually a 3 week to maybe 6 week long process, and it really depends on how fast the instructor is able to provide feedback and finalize these videos. So all in all, we're talking about 3 to 5 months.
Okay, and then so in terms of
And obviously, if I may add, throughout this process, a course manager shadows the instructor and makes sure that all the support is being provided. We leverage all the expertise we have and put it at the disposal of the instructors to make sure that they're able to design high quality online courses.
Okay, and this is a partnership you do. This is a question just came in by Danny. Is available. Your partnering with institutions, not with individual professors. Okay.
Both. We're open to partnerships with universities, but also with instructors who are passionate and interested in creating courses on a personal level.
Apart from the time that the professor will need, there is any other cost connected to this? So some money that the university has to pay for this service, let's say, or not?
Beyond the pilot course, which we usually take care of, just to validate the concept and make sure that they're excited about the process, and funding is not an issue or does not hinder their ability to embark on such experiments. Beyond the pilot course, we usually just ask the university to cover the production fees of their own courses, and they can do it externally with a service provider or via our team, and we do this at cost.
Okay, so you do not have a rough idea of how much would this cost, just to have a full understanding for a standard cost. That it depends.
We cover the costs, so instructors or institutions are not expected to pay money to host content on
Okay, so
a
you cover
platform.
the cost, meaning in the pilot phase or also in the future?
In the future, it really depends on the partnership model. We discuss whether we're talking about a series of courses or standalone courses, and as such, the amounts can be very different.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I'm looking if there are other questions, let's say doubts. Abir is asking if creating such a course will need certain format, time, and style, and you answered yes. So courses are, let's say, pretty similar to each other, like in the edX style, right? Like in the open edX style, so that courses have a similar pattern, I would say, no?
Yes, and I'd like to invite you all to visit our website, www.idrak.org, and maybe scan through the courses and see the ones that you like, or if you have more questions around the format, I'm more than happy to answer them. But to build on that question regarding is there a certain format, we guide the instructors throughout the process, as I mentioned, so you don't need to worry about how to create content that's in the right format that we're looking for, because we share templates and approaches that will enable you to do that easily.
Okay, then I think this, if you have other clarifications, I'm talking to the participants, please write them in the chat. Then a question by Yamina. Based on your experience, have you assessed the improvement of learning among the Arab students who took your MOOCs, or what is the impact on students' learning? Do you have some hints on this already?
This is actually a great question. This is the question we're now asking ourselves, obviously, and we do have an impact evaluation project that's coming up, and we will be able to do this now that we have offered a variety of courses and reached around 1.5 million learners. So I will be able to report on that in more detail once the impact evaluation is out. I'll be more than happy to share the outcomes. But pretty much now all the results are self-reported, and we have to keep in mind that those who sign up for MOOCs are interested in different aspects of it. And that's why we don't usually rely on completion rates as a metric to measure the success, because some people you seem to agree on. Some learners are interested in specific modules within the course, and as long as we are fulfilling these needs, then to us, the MOOC has served its purposes.
Using the words of Stephen Downes, that you will know for sure, one of the first MOOCs producers, he was saying that MOOCs are like newspapers. They are not like books. So you're not supposed to read from page 1 to the end of the book. I mean, you can, when you open a newspaper, you just read what interests you, and this doesn't mean that the newspaper was useless. Of course, it's a different concept, especially when we talk about individual learning or self-learning. So, and we just had this discussion in the UNIR Congress here in Madrid today, and we exactly discussed about the fact that, well, even we provocatively said that dropout rates should be an impulse to tell us that the course is working well, because if people are dropping out, it means that they dropped in at a certain point. So it's better to have people dropping in and then dropping out than having no people at all. So it's I agree that shouldn't be the main indicator. Of course, it is an indicator. So it's different if you have a dropout rate of 20 or of 80 that is telling you something, but it shouldn't be the main driver. I absolutely agree with you. Okay, so we look for when is this impact assessment report coming out?
It should be available in the fourth quarter of 2018.
Okay, good. So in let's say in 1 year from now, more or less, a bit less.
Because we'd like to include the K-12 offerings as well. It will be an initial one, but obviously we will keep building on it.
Then another group of questions have to do with the localization. If I understood well, you started by localizing existing MOOCs developed in the States, and then you started producing yours, right?
We actually started with a hybrid model. We had both licensed courses that we've translated, and also courses that we've created internally at the
And
job.
now you are only producing your own courses, right?
Yes, we've moved away from translating content.
Okay, and in fact that is.
But we're still open. We're still open to consider some of the resources that are out there in other languages, and we'd like to think of it more as a co-creation process rather than translation process. So, for example, with the University of British Columbia, they had a flagship course on blended learning. So when we started our conversation with UBC, we've identified this course as a great fit for the Arab world, especially as we were trying to get more universities to come on board and adopt online education, and blended learning seemed to be the best segue to do that. As such, when we started assessing the content with their experts, we realized that it won't work. It won't work to just translate the course. So we started working with their instructor on recreating the course with the Arab learner in mind. The entire content was created first in English, then it was translated. But when it was translated, the localization part was already taken care of.
Okay. Well, in fact, a debate or a discussion we are having in the OpenMed course, and we had in the OpenMed events, is like, I mean, there are certain subjects, if I'm thinking of mathematics or physics, where localization and examples, as you were saying, are not so, I mean, are sort of universal. It's very different from a course on history or from a course on social sciences. So in some case, it might make more sense to, or for example, if you are teaching English, of course, you can use some parts of some MOOCs from let's say directly in English. But I agree with you. And in fact, another question from a strict OpenMed point of view is something we are tackling a lot in our module 4, has to do with multicultural online collaboration. Sorry, I don't know to which extent in your MOOCs you are fostering collaboration among learners, but typically learners, even if they come only from the Arab region or from Arab-speaking countries, they have normally very different. They can have very different cultural background. So, are you taking into account somehow this in the moderation work, or do you, let's say, do you have a standard moderation for all learners?
Okay, so currently the courses we offer don't have much
Okay.
of group work assignments. I've skimmed through the content that you've shared in the module, and I've seen some examples around the difficulties, for example, some groups faced with time zone, and how some Japanese learners were not able to convey their ideas because they didn't speak English very well, and so the English speakers ended up leading the project, not them. We do not face these challenges because we don't yet have collaborative or group projects. It's pretty much self-directed and centered around the learner himself or herself. In terms of diversity, once you have an honor code that is pretty much universal, where we talk about how we need to respect others, how we need to make sure that our comments on the discussion board or forum are strictly focused on the learning experience without making any attacks on different opinions or trying to derail the conversation to express views that are not strictly related to the academic experience. Once we pave the way for proper communication guidelines, we have seen that learners pretty much take up the responsibility based on the trust they were given to create a safe learning environment where everyone is able to share. But because it's not the forum is not a chat per se. So it's not a chat room. It's a thread of questions and answers. So you can pretty much just disregard anything that's maybe let's say offensive. You don't need to engage with it per se, and also you can report it if you feel that this comment shouldn't stay on the forum. You can report it or flag it to your TA. They will look into it and remove it. But in terms of assignments, they're pretty much individual based.
Okay, okay. I'm inviting the participants to put more questions if you have them in the chat. And another doubt which came out has to do with, well, one thing we faced when we started our project has to do with the overall, I would say, open education sector in the Arab-speaking world and the MOOC sectors. And I guess you know this pretty well. So the question would be, apart from EDRAC and apart from some universities who are experimenting with MOOCs, I would say in-house, we know some experiences in Palestine and others. How would you describe the sector? Do you see a lot of, let's say, experiments or things coming out? Do you see other EDRACs coming out or similar things appearing? How would you describe the sector, for example, with respect to other regions like, well, the States is clearly leading, but also Europe or others?
Okay, so edtech in general in the Arab world is still at its infancy. The ecosystem is yet to grow to a level where we can say we have a very rigorous and active ecosystem. However, I'm very happy to see the space evolve. So 3 years ago when we started, we couldn't see so many players in the field. Now we see more and more content being created, startups launched, products that are available. So it has definitely evolved. There's a long way to go, but I can definitely see progress, and I can see a growing interest in creating educational content in Arabic or digital educational content in Arabic. That's for sure.
Okay, that's very interesting. And in fact, we just got the news today by a UNESCO speaker here at the Congress that UNESCO is well, UNESCO decided, maybe you are aware of this, that they will introduce more than a recommendation, a sort of a guidelines for all UNESCO member states on OER, and this will be the first time that such a guideline is sent through UNESCO, is produced by UNESCO, and that will be published at the end of 2019. So now the process will start. So meaning that in 2019, OER will no more be just a priority or just an important point of discussions, but it will be, I don't want to say a requirement, but a strong recommendation for European, for UNESCO, all UNESCO member states, meaning practically all world countries, let's say, more or less. And this is, of course, paving the way for experiences like yours. So it's pretty good news.
Congratulations. This is
Yeah,
very
this is a result. Well,
exciting.
we should congratulate
Congratulations.
UNESCO and the government. This is a result of the second OER World Congress that not even
That's great
expected
news.
by the strongest organizers and advocates for this. So it's really good news, I think, for all of us working in this field. It will take some time. I mean, a couple of years is not tomorrow, but still the process now is unstoppable, it seems. So it's some good news for all of us. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, now a last question which comes from Christina through Skype has to do with our course. As you know, OpenMed has produced a course also in Arabic with which is not a MOOC itself in its form. It's more an online course with a number of modules and just some introductory video. But we should see if we should discuss how this could be also, I would say. Let's say, work as an input for your MOOC platform. And would you be interested in this? No, this
Absolutely.
the course. The theme of the course is OER and open education, and it's one of the first courses of this kind in Arabic, and it's targeting higher education professors. We are at the moment in the pilot phase, and already we will have sort of a spin-off of this in French with in a MOOC form thanks to some Moroccan funds. And I think a logical step should be to have also a MOOC coming out from this in through a DRAC. I think it would make a lot of sense.
Absolutely. We'd be more than happy to host the course and even support its creation. We're very interested in creating and also empowering a community of practice around OERs in Arabic. So we'd love to host the course and start
Yeah,
a movement
absolutely. Well,
here
and
in the
we
region.
have there in Jordan we have active partners who are also very good speakers and presenters. So we could both by relying on them or maybe by organizing some visits from other Arabic speaking partners, we could have multiple voices. It would be nice to have a course which reflects the multiple nationalities also of our project, of our network. That would be good. And I mean, just for you to know, we plan to finish the pilot phase between February and March next year, and then to have a sort of a validation and improvement of the content. And then I think more or less by mid next year we should be ready to make this happen, most probably. So that could be a great development, I think, for the whole region.
Sounds great. Just let me know, and we're very happy to support. I did see the content, so I think we're almost there. I would say that 50 or even 60% of the work is already done. We just need to work on filming some of the lectures and authoring the tool on the platform, and just make sure that the entire learning experience is
Yeah,
properly designed.
absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, and that, I mean, we are going to go through this experience in French. So what they call scénarisation, so is a sort of a instructional design of transforming this course into a MOOC, let's say. And this we will have to do it in the next months, even before the end of the pilot phase. So let's say that some work of this missing 40% will be done already in the next month. So I think we are in a good track for this, and it's for that, and it's a good development for both of us, I think. So I would. I would like now to just to repeat Maya's word that the DRAC is doing a great job and especially is doing a great service, in my understanding, to the whole region and to the whole Arabic speaking community. I mean, it's a very important job you are doing. I see multiple attendees are typing. Most of these
Yeah, and I'd like to thank everyone for their kind words. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet all of you virtually and engage in this exciting conversation. I do hope that we are able to build on this conversation and take it forward, specifically by collaborating on new courses that we can offer to learners across the MENA region.
yeah. You see that you put your email before. I will paste it again there so that everybody has your email if they want to contact you directly, both for more questions and to propose some partnership. And I see other thanks. They appreciate having such an institution serving in the Middle East, which is very even better than a thank. And it would be great to have you in the forum somehow. Or Amina, what do you mean to have you in the forum? You mean,
Yeah, I was going to ask the same
yeah,
question, which forum?
let's see, Amina is specifying better. You mean the OpenMed course forum, the online forum. Okay,
Ah,
well, I could,
part of the
yeah,
module.
on module 4, we could grant you an access as a facilitator if you have some questions, if you have the willingness to answer to some questions, or do you have your own platform? Danny is asking. You mean Edra?
Yes, absolutely. It's the Idrak platform, and you can visit it on the link that was shared. Let me type it again.
Yeah. Okay, so I think content is pretty clear and but it is a technical question. Let's see. I think your own platform. You mean
So do you mean technology?
yes? I think it means in terms of technology.
Okay, so as I mentioned, we've started, I don't know if you've seen this slide, with the open edX technology. And now we are building on it and creating our own features in response to the needs that we've identified over the past three
So it's
years. So we do have our in-house engineering team, and I'm very proud to say that we've also helped other governments and entities set up their own platforms.
yeah. Okay. Thank you for the specification. And I think if there are no more questions, I think we can close here. I would like, on behalf of the project, on behalf of all our facilitators, and also of the facilitators from Morocco who are close to me in this very same building but could not attend for other meetings, and on behalf of the UNESCO chair here at UNIR, I would like to thank first of all Shireen for your presentation, very informative and also and especially for the availability of to work with all our partners
My
and
pleasure. Thank
yeah,
you for
and
having me.
all the participants. And this webinar is being recorded and is gonna be linked onto the OpenMed website in the very next days. So if you have colleagues who couldn't participate, just share the link with them. We're gonna share it through Twitter also. And so I think that's all. Thank you very much to everybody, and see you on OpenMed site, on the OpenMed course, and of course see you on EDRAC also.
Good luck to everyone.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
very
Thank
much.
you.